Hello, crisis actors. It's Mary. Today is not just a normal Tuesday. I'd like to remind you that Brett is currently out of town and he is coming back on Thursday. But across from me is Kellen taking over the producing duties. Hi, Kellen.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm not Brett.
You're not Brett. That's okay.
Yeah, I
am. We still appreciate you.
I'm holding down the fort over here, making sure everyone's headphones are good volume.
Yeah, you're doing a great job, just so you know. I'm going to give you a pat on the back. I also have Aidan joining me once again. Hi, Aidan.
Hey, guys.
Can you just tell everyone again, in case they missed it, who you are?
Yeah, my name is Aidan Mattis. I am the host and lead researcher of a channel called The Lore Lodge right here on YouTube, where we talk about true crime, unsolved mysteries, and just general interesting stuff from that realm.
Yeah. And as you can probably tell from the thumbnail of today's show, at long last, the one and only Phil Labonte is back on PCC. Hi, Phil.
Hi, Mary. Hello, crisis actors. How you doing? My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary, and it is very good to be back with you all.
It's so nice to hear that intro again. It's just music to my ears.
I appreciate that.
In case any of the audience was not aware, where the hell have you been recently?
I have been on tour with a little band called Megadeth and another little band called Mudvayne, and we were on tour for like 2 months. So I was gone for about 10 weeks. I did 2 weeks of rehearsals in New England before the tour started, and then we jumped on tour and did, it was like 35 shows with Megadeth, and then we did like 10 shows without Megadeth, where it was just either All That Remains or All That Remains and Mudvayne. So
we have a few $20 super chats before we talk more about the tour. First from Scooter, Phil, my cousin and I saw ATR at the Detroit show, kicked major ass, and she thought you were quite the yummy snack.
Well,
the woman was actually drooling. Brett and Mary love you and keep up the good work. I'll let Brett know you said that. Thank you. Okay, we've got some thirst in the comments.
Oh boy. Thirst is okay.
Tyler Fowler said, "Gonna be a great show. Let's go." And
Thank you very much.
Not That John Stewart said, "View from the intro camera. Boys. Oh, hi, Mary. Welcome back, Phil. Saw you in Detroit. Awesome show." Okay, another
Awesome.
Detroit
Thank you
audience
so much for
member.
coming out.
Interesting. So I just want to hear all about the tour. Did you end up destroying all the enemies?
We destroyed all the enemies that we had. I'm sure that a new crop will pop up.
Yeah.
You're never really finished destroying the enemies, but we did destroy all of them. Dave Mustaine from Megadeth was great. It was really, Megadeth is a really accommodating band. So like, you can kind of be in a situation where if you're on tour with a band where they're like, this is what you get, don't come bother us, don't ask us for anything. And Megadeth was not like that at all. They were just like, if you need anything, give us a hand, give us a holler, come and talk to us, blah blah blah. And it was, so because of that, it was super easy for us to do our job. And I had made it clear to like our guys, I'm like, look, everybody needs to mind their P's and Q's and be on their best behavior. We don't want to go ahead and step on anyone's toes. This is a big tour, and we want to make sure that we all behave professionally, and it paid off because they were all super accommodating, and all of our guys were very professional and got on stage when we're supposed to. We didn't go over our time. There was never a time where they're like, you guys are 5 minutes over and now you're putting the show back, blah, 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 which can happen. If something messes up, a lot of bands are like, oh, we want to try and squeeze that song in. For us, we were just like, we had an issue one time. We had an issue in Pittsburgh, and we were playing at Stage AE. And instead of being like, oh, we're going to try and squeeze songs in, we were just like, all right, cut those 2 songs and do, we had a short set. And it sucks for us, but at the same time, it's like, it's not our show. Megadeth makes all kinds of accommodations for us. So when
I showed up for All That Remains.
Yes,
personally.
you did.
I'm sure many others did. As I was walking past the line to cut the line,
that was hilarious.
I saw many people wearing All That Remains merch, so I'm sure it wasn't just me showing up for you guys. And unfortunately, they were all late, and I got to see your set.
Yes, that was. I'm really impressed with the way that you cut the line too. The way that just. Am I supposed to be here? Oh, I guess I'm here now. Thank you.
I guess I'm here now. Like, you just have to act like you belong somewhere, and walk in with confidence and nobody questions it.
I mean, the boots that you were wearing were confidence boots, though. She came in
You
wearing.
hated it.
She had these boots with gigantic heels, and she was like literally as tall
They're
as me.
like actual 7-inch thick platform boots.
And I'm like, good grief,
I
Mary.
was height mogging you so hard.
eye to eye.
You
Yeah.
didn't care to
My.
mention that when we were talking about Sabrina Carpenter being 4'11", wearing massive boots? You
Oh
didn't-
yeah, I was
you
kind
also
of
do
pulling
that?
a Sabrina Carpenter there,
Oh.
height mogging Phil, and he was super mad about it.
Yeah, but you guys were polite, and it was fun. I was really I was glad that you got to see the show and stuff.
I wasn't expecting to feel like this, but when you were up there, I'd never seen you in a context like that. I see you as like, Phil, he's on a talk show with me. We talk about things. He's smart. But then you're up there screaming, and I was like, I'm like proud of you. I felt like a proud mother. It was so weird. Even though I like, you like started your band before I was like born.
Yeah, before you were
so
born.
that is a little weird, but I appreciate it.
On the show, it's like
nonetheless.
Uncle Phil kind of, and up there, it's like, oh, my proud boys.
You told me a story from the tour. I don't know if you want to tell the story publicly, but it was about a gift.
Oh yes, so Dave Mustaine's birthday was on the tour, or happened during the tour, and because he'd been so cool and so accommodating, I called up our manager and I was like, look, I want you to get Dave a birthday gift, and it's a jiu-jitsu gi, and so I'm like, yo, get this kind of gi. It's got to be this type. It's got to be this brand. It's got, it's a nice one, and so it took a couple days to round it up, and so it wasn't actually on his birthday, but I got it and put together this gift bag with the whole, bag and the white tissue paper, so that way, I didn't look like a loser just handing him a bag with like an address on it or whatever. And I put it in our dressing room, and so the day that I was intending on giving it to him, we went and we did our meet and greet, and on the way back, when I'm walking through the hall, Dave saw me, and he's like, hey, come here, Phil. And he says to me, he's like, I heard what you said, and I wanted to say thank you, because a couple of weeks earlier I had been on a podcast and I related essentially the same thing that I related a few minutes ago, how Megadeth had been really accommodating and they were really cool to us, and I really appreciated it and stuff. And he heard it, and he's like, I just want to say thank you for what you said. That was really cool. You didn't have to. And he gave me a hug, and I was like, that's effing cool, man. Like Dave Mustaine, like, I was
So cute.
When I was 16 years old, I went and I saw Megadeth, Judas Priest, and Testament at the Worcester Centrum, and I was like super into Megadeth when I was a kid. Learned to play a ton of Megadeth songs on guitar and stuff. And so I was like, Dave, hold on one second. I ran to the dressing room and I grabbed the bag. It was already made, already put together, like I said, and I came out and I was like, I want you to, we got this for you. The band got this for you. First of all, it was your birthday last week, and also, we wanted to say thank you. You've been super nice to us. And so we were chatting a little bit more, and he's like, should I open it? I'm like, please. So he opens it up and he pulls the bag out, and he's kind of looking at it, and he opens the packaging of the gi, and he's like, oh wow, this is really nice. And he's like, starts pulling the stuff out, and he pulls out the pants, checking the size, and he puts the jacket on. He's like, wow, how did you know? This is a really nice gi, and blah, blah. I'm like, yes, like you
nailed it.
When you get you get someone a gift and you can tell they like it, and it was like the right thing. And then he was like, this is so nice. And I was like, I'm so glad you like it. Super cool. And so he was awesome. And then I guess a couple minutes later, after we went our separate ways, he was actually put it on. He had someone taking pictures.
Aww.
And their security guy X, who's a wonderful dude. He comes over. He's like, man, you threw me under the bus and told him that I helped you get that. I'm like, yeah, man, you did. He's like, oh. He's like, all right, well, that's cool. He's like, but it was really good. He's like, the boss really liked it a lot. I'm like, that's great. So, and it paid dividends in the fact that even before he came over and was chatting with me, I had it set up to be like, hey, we wanted to say thank you. So, it was just
Was that the high point of the tour?
I think so.
Party?
Yeah, we got a crisis party already.
Already.
Thank you.
We
so
had
much.
4 yesterday.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Thank you guys.
Oh,
That's the new one too.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I forgot you hadn't heard it
I
yet.
haven't heard this. Awesome.
I was also caught off guard by that one yesterday.
That's great.
But yeah, that was your high moment for the
Yeah,
tour.
it was really cool. Like I said, I was excited to be on the tour overall, just because I'm a Megadeth fan, and All That Remains hasn't been on tour. We haven't done a support tour like that in a long time. It's been 6 years since we released new music, and Dave was one of the things he was saying when we were talking. He's like, I really like your band, blah blah blah. All That Remains and Megadeth kind of fit together. Dave's obviously a guitar player that plays tons of solos and stuff, and we have like riffs, and so Dave appreciates that, and he was very complimentary, and so yeah, it was great.
Does he roll a lot? Like, has he been rolling for a while?
Yeah, I think he's a purple belt.
Oh, wow.
And he had a black belt professor out with us. So like,
don't you do martial arts as well?
Jiu-jitsu badly.
Okay.
I have a bum knee, and I haven't been rolling like the way that I need to actually like climb up the ladder, but I actually like last spring I went to the doctor, and they were like, yeah, it's your PCL, so I might have to get surgery to actually get it fixed. But enough about my knee. I love jiu-jitsu.
Well, a gi is like, it's a great gift because you spend a lot of time in that thing getting crushed on the ground. So when you see a nice one, you're really happy about it because you're going to be in that thing. You're going to have large dudes smashing you against the mat. So you want to have a comfortable gi. You want to have a nice one.
Yeah.
So
also, not to be a bummer, but were there some low points, some struggles on the tour that you would like to share? Perhaps?
We had issues with our bus. The bus that we got at the very beginning of the tour was not up to spec. The bus company sent us out a bus that had multiple things that were not working properly. So we had to fight with them about getting a replacement bus, and we had to get a replacement driver because the driver that we had in the beginning, he's taking curves at like 75 miles an hour, and people are like rolling around in their bunks.
Yeah.
They're like, I can't sleep. And, it is a safety issue. And as soon as we got the new guy, Brian, the replacement bus driver, which it took almost a month to get him out, but like once we got him, then everybody's like, oh,
yeah,
it's so much better. You could actually sleep through the night, and you might not notice it or realize it, but like if you get woken up 2 or 3 times in a night, it
really messes you up.
It does, and then people have their sleep monitor thing. They're like, man, I only got like 3 actual hours of sleep last night, blah blah blah. So
yeah, well, I mean, no matter how established you are, like touring is definitely roughing it.
Yeah,
more so for some than others, but yeah, I wouldn't be capable of it. It's intense.
It takes some getting used to, and even at our level where you're in a bus with a slide and you've got crew that take care of everything for you. Even that we did 10 weeks, or well, we did it was 9 or so weeks total. By the end of the tour, I'm like, I'm so sick and tired of looking at every single one of your faces and smelling your farts in Bunk Alley and smelling your breath when you wake up. You're just like, get me the hell out of here.
Well, one time we asked you about what are your most like diva demands on tour, and you said one of them was that you have to have Fiji water, specifically Fiji water bottles. So I'm sure you had plenty of that, right?
I did, and the reason that I had to have Fiji is not because of the water.
It's the structure.
It's the bottles.
Yes.
Okay, the most bottles, if you're just getting water bottles, they make the plastic as thin as possible. And because I'm the singer, there are only short periods of time where I can actually grab a drink during the song. So if I grab one of those real thin bottles, it's likely to squish and make a mess, and and it's just pain in the butt. If you get Fiji bottles, because they're that square thick plastic, I know that I can grab it quickly and it's not going to just turn into like a paper mache and fall apart in my hand. So
Fiji's actually a pretty cool company too. One of my best friends from high school did an internship with them. I think it was like it was one of our years of college.
It's so random.
Oh yeah, I know, right? They liked him, so they gave him a lifetime supply of Fiji. He just tells them where he's living, and they send him a box of Fiji every 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I don't know if it's still going on. I think it is, but like
he's making friends and influencing people.
I was like, dude, you're free water for life, man.
That's awesome.
You need to like exchange contact information for the Fiji hookup. That sounds
absolutely
nice.
All that remains sponsored by Fiji.
I was a little bit offended that you didn't throw a guitar pick or a drumstick to me specifically, but that's okay.
I literally have a drumstick in my apartment here in Martinsburg. I will bring one on Thursday. I can get one whenever
I want. That's fine.
You literally can.
You have to give one to one of the
Thursday.
plebs. No, I was actually standing far away, so you wouldn't have seen me anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
it was still really fun though. I know you said it was the last date of the tour, so you were the most practiced.
Yeah, we were as rehearsed as we were going to get on that tour. So
yeah, and it sounds like that moment with Dave was like kind of a full circle moment, and perhaps you're a Dave to some other young men out there, which is something that we're going to talk about during this show.
No, I mean, this was wild for me getting to meet you for the first time because like I've never been to an All That Remains show, but you guys are on my workout playlist and my video gaming playlist. So I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'm getting to meet, one of these guys. And I got here, and of course, you're one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Everybody thinks metalheads are like super intense and mean.
Well, we'll also talk about Gen Z trying to cancel metalheads.
Gen Z is intense and mean.
There's all sorts of stuff that we're going to talk about today. But before we get into that, I just want to say over the weekend, we jumped from 137,000 subscribers to 138. And then just overnight yesterday, we went from 138 to 139,000 subscribers. So we're really excited about the growth of the channel. And if you're new here today, thank you for being here. And I want to explain some things to you to help you get acclimated. You already saw a crisis party. So just so you know, every $100 that we receive in super chats will trigger a crisis party. And we're going to be reading all of your super chats today. Any super chat, $20 and over, will be read as soon as it's sent in. So if you want to join into any of our discussions or just be a distraction to us, either way is totally fine by me. The goal actually is to get 10 crisis parties before Brett returns. And if you don't make it there, he's not coming back. So just warning you, he's not coming back if we don't reach the goal. We had a pretty good start yesterday. We went to 4. We're at 5 now. So we're halfway there. So with all of that out of the way, the first thing I wanted to get into was an op-ed that you wrote and published in Fox News recently. And it's about young men being lost in society today. The title is you posted a quote, "With no purpose and a society that doesn't hold boys and men with any significant value, many are simply self-selecting out of society altogether. This is the silent crisis, why society is failing men and boys." So the first thing I want to ask you is, why did you write this piece?
Because I think that it's necessary. We talk about the problems that, specifically Gen Z, but men overall are facing. And even to mention them nowadays, still there's a lot of people that the pushback is, oh, poor white men, poor men, blah, blah, blah. They don't actually have any problems. They're just trying to claim victim, et cetera, et cetera. And whereas that is not an unexpected reaction. That doesn't change the reality of the situation, that men are self-selecting out of society. Men are deciding to, instead of going out and trying to do things that will better themselves, they're deciding to sit around and play video games and smoke pot, which, I mean, look, I'm not judging you if you decide you want to play video games or whatever, if you like to smoke a joint once in a while. But there is way more to life than just sitting around masturbating to porn and smoking pot. Like, there is way more to life. And we need men. Society is built by men. No matter how much feminists tell you that it's not or that it hasn't been, society has been built and maintained by men. Men do all the hard jobs. Men do all the dirty things. When there's a snowstorm and the power lines go down at 3 in the morning, 99% of the time, the people that are out there fixing the power lines are men. The people that are going out and pulling people out of the river and out of the water when there's a flood, like in North Carolina, 99% of the time it's men. Society does not work without men that are actually active in their communities and active in society. So we can't just let men decide, oh, I don't want to be a man. And it is important to have masculine men. The left and feminists and stuff like that will push on any masculinity, and they'll call it toxic masculinity. Right. That's because feminists think that all men are either their dad or the president. That's it. We
have to acknowledge that, I'd say probably since the 70s, even if the society was built by men, it's largely been run by a feminist nature since like the 70s. And so now you have all these men who are told they're problematic for being who they are.
Well, you have women populating the classrooms, and you have women populating the boardrooms increasingly in corporations as well. But I read in this piece that you've interacted with a lot of young men just by the nature of what you do as a musician. And I've heard this phrase so many times, like, this band or this artist saved my life. Yeah. And I always just kind of had raised an eyebrow at that. Like, I find it worrying that people are in a situation where they would feel that way about just a musician. or an artist of some kind, why are they in that place, that dark place at all to begin with, do you think?
The why, I think, is actually, was that?
Nothing.
Oh, the why is there's probably multiple reasons as to why, but when you have that kind of interaction over and over, you start thinking, well, what is it? It used to be that the most important thing to people, and young men in particular, was their family, their, the clubs that they'll be a part of, but their social interactions, their interactions with their neighbors and their community, and that was where you got positive affirmation. That was where you found meaning. And Jordan Peterson is, in my opinion, he's right that there is a crisis of meaning. And so whether it be faith or whether it be community or whether it be something else, men need meaning. They need positive role models, and they need some reason to get up in the morning. And it should be family. That's the most important thing for most people, and it's the thing that gives most people meaning. When you have men that are deciding they don't want to start a family, or they don't want to try to start a project or build a business or whatever, you have a situation where a lot of men are like I said, opting out, and we need those people to opt in. We need those guys to opt in, and the ramifications of it are suicide, depression, and it's not just men that are suffering. You've got women that will constantly say, oh, where are all the good men? Or women that are depressed, they can't find men that want to have a family, or they think that going out and just having a job is going to be the thing that's going to fulfill them, and then as they approach 30, they're like, oh no, this isn't what I want, and so there need to be men that are going to be there to be like, I am looking to start a family.
Before we continue on that thought, we got a 20 from Brian Tesh. Phil, it was great meeting you at Charlotte. Y'all killed it at the show. It's so cool when you grabbed that girl's phone and recorded yourself and the crowd.
Cheers.
PCC and HCB didn't know how to deal without you. Great to see you back. Okay, not sure how I feel about that subtle dig. We were just fine without Phil, but we are so happy that he's back.
A lot longer than 10 weeks. So I'll admit that.
Not to glaze Phil too much, but I do enjoy Timcast more when you're on it.
I appreciate that.
Which I think you have a perspective that I think is sorely needed in a lot of those conversations.
Thank you.
And also, I mean, just to speak on some of what you were just talking about with you said you don't know how men get into that situation where a band could save their life. I mean, I've been in that situation myself, and coming into it, it really was loneliness. It was that, it's gotten better now. A lot of my friends, as we've grown, we've aged, some people are getting married. A lot of us are in really stable long-term relationships. We have homes and dogs. Like, we're doing good. The boys made it, most of us.
Yeah.
But back then, you didn't feel like you could talk to your guy friends. You didn't want to be a wuss. You didn't want to be a sissy. Like those were all the terms that were getting thrown around. So where you could find some solace was in the people who have written music about feeling that way and about overcoming it. And a lot of the time you needed to start with the wallowing stuff where it was, I'm sad and I need to feel justified that I'm sad as a man. And then you can start to, climb out of it. And a lot of bands kind of almost went through that progression themselves. I wasn't into metal until later in my life. I mean, I say that like I'm old, but I wasn't into metal until college. Before that, for me, it was a lot of pop punk and emo stuff. And so bands like, for me, Simple Plan was huge. Yeah. I don't know if you have ever met them or, listened to them.
We got another 20 real quick from VWit. I have to touch on this as your Red Pill MGTOW base. There are a lot of reasons. Music has definitely saved my life. Phil is spitting facts and knows what he's talking about. Oh, put a girl on.
I don't get that.
That's what's so heartbreaking. With all due respect to Phil and other bands and Jordan Peterson, it's a damn shame that men have to go to strangers to find that role model in their life.
Yep.
Like there's no hometown heroes that are coming back from war anymore, right? There's no I can't remember the fire department doing like children's events anymore, so you can see a positive masculine role model
or just basic male camaraderie.
Gone.
And
and so now Jordan Peterson, a random YouTuber from Canada, is resonating with young American men because they have nobody in their corner.
Well, yeah, and one of the reasons is because male spaces have been, infiltrated intentionally and changed by feminists, by women. You don't even have the Boy Scouts anymore.
Yeah.
Now they're the Scouts. And that's a terrible, terrible thing for men and boys.
I know.
So we need, as a society, we need to understand that men are not an option. Like women don't get to exist in a happy society without men. As much as feminists will tell you, you know, we don't need men, they're lying. They're lying, and the ones that think that they're like, oh, we don't need men, they end up miserable all the time. You hear people talk about it constantly, and I don't want to sound like I'm being derogatory, so I'm not going to say any of the cliches that are said about it. But women need men, and to have a happy life, you most people find a happy life by having a family.
Are you familiar with the Whatever podcast?
Yep.
And Andrew Wilson that goes on there pretty frequently?
Yep.
Well, he has this, like, it's a common talking point that comes up time and time again on that show with him, where the women on the panel who are self-proclaimed feminists, they cannot understand when his point when he's like, hey, laws and order and like only exist because men are allowing it to exist.
Yep.
And they
And
cannot
enforcing
like,
it,
what do you
yes.
mean? But it's the law. They're like, it's only because men respect that piece of paper that we can have a civilized society, right? Without men upholding those rules, laws, and traditions, chaos would ensue, right?
I think
and they
that-
can't understand that. They're like, what?
I see that a lot in urban men too, like people who come from places where they are safe. Like for the most part, all of their needs are just kind of met. Everything's within 15 minutes. They don't really have to do anything aside from go to their job, earn their paycheck, and everything they could possibly buy is right there. They don't really have a concept of society not functioning that way. And I see it in politics with all of this, you know, there's just kind of this urban derisive attitude towards the rural portions of the country from people who don't seem to understand that, yeah, you may have the population advantage. Those people grow your food. You don't live without them. They can live just fine without you. If you go away, they lose Hollywood. They don't get to watch TV. If they go away, you die.
And it's almost like, because we're in a feminized culture nowadays, it's almost like because the problems of men don't impact the powers that, you know, exist right now, it's like, oh, it doesn't impact me, so it's not a problem. It's not happening. And we're finding that it's like, oh, men complaining again, and what problems could they have? Like you started talking about, like, white men are told that they don't have problems because they have the privilege of being a white man. Yeah, so they everything else is invalidated.
Men commit suicide 4 times more frequently than women do. There are 4 men commit suicide for every 1 woman that does. Now there is a part of that is men are more aggressive overall than women, so men are more committed to actually doing it.
We use guns and nooses.
Yeah, whereas women don't, but it doesn't change the fact that the results are more men are dying. 60% of college students are women now. Men are not excelling in school anymore. All of school is designed for women. All of grade school 100%. And everything, when you just sitting, boys and girls are not the same. No matter how much the left tells you, they are not interchangeable cogs. And boys learn differently and need different things to what girls do. You don't want to go ahead and put a boy on Ritalin just because he's rambunctious. That's just being a boy.
I know.
That's not to say violence is okay. That's saying that when they want to get up and run around, that's just a boy being a boy.
Right.
That's not what girls do.
We got another 20, real quick from Cartoon Post. People hate on them, but when I was a 16-year-old boy, I found the masculine way Adam Levine portrays himself in Maroon 5 music and music videos inspiring in a society where being masculine is mostly frowned on. I am surprised to hear that take. What do you think?
Now that I'm thinking about it, like older Maroon 5, yeah. Like,
yeah, I guess I can see it.
Like
yeah,
Justin
and it's
Timberlake
just
masculinity.
it's in such short supply. Now, this is an op-ed. You had to keep it brief and you had to keep it factual. But one thing you mentioned was your experience growing up in a home with a father, which unfortunately a lot of young boys and young men don't have these days. I think you said it's 1 in 4 boys now grows up in a fatherless home. That comes with obviously a whole bunch of risk factors, not all of which you even mentioned. And you could have made this into like a 30,000 word analysis if you wanted to.
I know.
But you said, I consider myself lucky I had a dad who showed me what being a man is all about. And I want to ask you what that means.
Well, I think the very first thing about being a man is taking accountability and being responsible, right? Like, again, I don't want to get into memes or whatever, but men don't have the luxury, or at least if you want to be a good man that has a positive masculine role. Men don't have the luxury of not being accountable for their actions.
Yeah.
You'll hear a lot of women or a lot of people, like I said, memes where it's like, women aren't accountable and blah, blah, blah. The ramifications for women tend to be significantly less for whatever they do. And people are usually available to help them get out of whatever situation they get into. How many times have you heard stories, and these are just anecdotes, but how many times have you heard stories about a girl say, oh, I got pulled over, but I smiled, and then I got a little teary, and the cop let me go. If I cry, a cop ain't letting me go.
No.
Because that just makes you seem even more dangerous.
Exactly.
Our best option is like be as respectful as possible.
Yeah.
And then that's got like a 25% chance of working.
I've seen like these videos on YouTube where it's like body cam footage from police officers, and when they pull over a woman, it doesn't matter how old she is.
Yep.
She could look like a middle-aged professional. She's gonna be calling her dad on the phone. I swear, these women, grown-ass women, they call their dad in a situation like that, in a crisis like that, because they know that men will come in to help, and they actually are happy to do so.
Yes. And there's one thing that I want to point out, like that I think people might miss. This is okay. The situation that we're in where women get preferential treatment, that's okay. The problem is men are being disrespected constantly. It's okay that women get preferential treatment because that's what evolution has decided. That people, human beings, are more preferential to women. And the reason is because it takes a woman a whole long time and a lot of risk and a lot of problems to make another human being.
What's fascinating?
Men can, hold on a second. Men can get, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like men can just go ahead and impregnate multiple women, right? One guy and you could go ahead and have a bunch of babies. Women need men to protect them, whether a feminist believes it or agrees with it or not. Women need men to protect them, whether it be their boyfriend, their father, or their husband, or whatever. Or it'll be the cops, and it'll be the men that don't know them, but it'll be the society that has been built by men that'll protect them while the baby grows inside them, and then they need help to raise the baby. You can't raise a baby and work full time. You need help. And it's okay for society to say women need preferential treatment. That's okay. But the problem that we have nowadays is men are disrespected and told that they're not worth anything, they have no value, and they should feel ashamed for their existence and ashamed for being men, while at the same time women are saying, oh, everything a woman does, or feminists are saying, everything a woman does is fine. There is nothing that a woman ever does that's wrong. And if a man has a problem, he can go ahead and just go off and die. But women are what we're going to focus on, and we're just going to disrespect men. The problem is disrespecting men. The problem isn't the preferential treatment to women. That's okay, because that's what has helped our species succeed. But the disrespecting of men and treating men as if they're optional and they're disposable and they don't matter, that has to stop.
Before you respond, we have another 20 from Waffle Sensei. I talk to lots of young men too. What keeps men from being responsible is that they're shamed for being masculine and protective, and shamed for not being so. They are scorned either way, so they think, why be responsible?
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. That speaks directly to my point. The disrespecting men for being men, the disrespecting boys for being boys, that's the problem, or that's, in my opinion, the biggest problem in society.
I think it's worse than the way you're framing it, though, because you're like, I could handle a little disrespect, all right? Like, I could handle someone being rude, but it's like mainstream media, like a lot of the big pharma, they're actually actively putting a target on men's back. It's not just disrespect. It's saying this is a problem that we need to flush out. We need to fix. It
needs to be annihilated.
Exactly. So it's so much worse than just disrespect.
Yes.
It's an active campaign to get rid of
it's violent. It's violent. Sex selective abortions are legal in this country, whether you like it or not. Like, that's the truth. It is truly a violent drive to annihilate masculinity, not just disrespect it, scorn it. You have, what is that, the third crisis party
I'm not sure.
of the day?
I think
or
it's
is
the
it second today?
We're getting close to a third.
Thank you. We have another 20 from the Bass Eater. It's great to have you back, Bill. Keep destroying all enemies.
Thank you very much.
I asked Mary, she's like, Phil will be on tomorrow. I'm like, did he destroy all the enemies? Is
that's the most important question, right?
It is.
I think what drives so much of the resentment, too, is that it's not that men resent the expectation of protecting and providing for women, but it's that women now are encouraged to forsake everything that makes them these valuable, cherishable creatures. And I feel like I have such a high opinion of women and our nature and what we are supposed to be, what we were intended and created to be, that it just causes me anguish to see that happen. And men feel, what is their worth protecting now?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a universal problem. Obviously, there are exceptions to every rule, but that's another huge problem, is that resentment between the sexes and this increasing stratification between the sexes on just about every issue, every facet of life.
To your point, there is like, men have to live up to being like in charge. If you're a guy that's like, I want a traditional, you know, be in a traditional marriage or traditional relationship, you have to live up to being good enough for a woman to listen to you, right? If you're like, I want to be the guy that's in charge of my family and blah blah blah, you don't just get to be that guy and then sit on your butt, right? Like that you're not. You have to be worth following.
Yeah.
To be a leader, you have to be worth following, and if you're not, no one's going to want to follow you. So the woman that you have in your life, if you're not taking care of her needs, if she can't trust you, if she doesn't feel like she can rely on you, she's not going to want to follow you. So that's going to mess up your whole entire life. And the same thing goes for women. If women want to be treated like princesses and treated like, you know, a special, you know, the apple of his eye and blah blah blah, you have to be worth being treated like that.
We have another 20 from the Bass Eater. He said, the B in my name is silent, by the way. Thank you for telling me. I'll keep that in mind. Yeah.
I want to forget that, personally.
Oh, I just had a thought. It's just on the tip of my tongue.
I found it fascinating that when you were talking about 60% of college students are women now, and I'm thinking about, where does this go in 20 years? Because right now you have all these men that are picking up the trades, which I think is a great thing, right? There's like a resurgence in, like, go to trade school, screw the university, become a plumber, become an electrician, right?
Not sure I agree, but yeah.
So you're seeing this rise, and what's going to happen? You're going to have, it's like the Hunger Games, where District 1 and 2 in the Capitol are all the women, and they're all scholars and professors and politicians. Then who's at District 12, 11, and 10? It's the laborers. Mm-hmm. It's men. So you're not just seeing like it's not just meritocracy, but it's like really being divided by the sexes. And it reminds me, I think it was Norway that is like the most
legally equal country
in the world for
something
gender.
Like that.
And they've only bifurcated further. Like, women are going into the caretaking jobs way more. Men are naturally going into the more laborious jobs.
They gave women the ability to choose what it is they actually wanted to do with their lives, and a lot of them chose things that are stereotypically female.
But that's not what's happening in America. It's not equality. It's ramming down women into positions that are historically held by men. It's not for the name of equality. It's the name to just shake up the game. You know?
Well, obviously, again, this op-ed did not fully articulate all of the problems, the full scope of the problems that are facing men today. But one thing that was conspicuously missing from it is any sort of call to action, any sort of solution being raised, which I don't think is absolutely necessary for what you wrote either. But if you had to think of a solution, what would it be?
Well, the intent of the op-ed is to add one more, because there are a few people that are talking about these kind of issues, but still nowadays, just having this opinion, if you talk about it, you get lambasted. There are people that there are some metal blogs that just don't like me at all, and they went through the whole litany of the expected, anticipated. Oh well, they did the whole poor men, blah blah blah, white men or blah blah blah, because they're leftists, and so they don't, nothing that they said was intelligent. It was just stuff that they've heard and repeated. There was no thought. There was no actual looking at statistics or anything like that. It was just, idiots with saying what they've heard.
Level takes.
Yeah. Saying the right thing that they're supposed to say, which is fine. But that's what that's what you're met with when you start talking about this stuff. So it's really just adding voices or adding one more voice to a conversation that needs to be had, because what the real goal is, right? And the whole overall goal is to change the attitude that society has towards men, because that's the only thing that's actually going to fix the problem, right? There's not a policy that the government can come up with that's going to fix this, because the problem is, like you were mentioning, it's the way the media portrays men. It's the way that feminists have influenced the zeitgeist in the United States, in the West, that men are unnecessary, that men are an option, and that's not the case. So there is no call to action intentionally, because to have a call to action would imply that this is some kind of easy fix, when what really needs to happen is there needs to be a change in the way that people perceive things. Now, in there, I think I mentioned Marco Rubio and some of the stuff that he's done. He actually shared the op-ed on his Twitter page. But Senator Rubio has some plans and some things that he's been talking about, because he had written a piece. I think it was the state of the working and non-working man. So his office is working on some of this stuff, and there might be a policy that could, a policy.
Things can help, but and also I'm coming at this as well from a religious perspective, that I see there's a spiritual problem that needs to be remedied, which we will talk about in a second here. We have another 20 from VWIT. I have one talent / goal to understand as much as I can. I have many nieces, I assume you meant, and nephews, and they are now having their own children. My family is pretty religious, but not me, so I'm trying to learn as much as I can. Oh, hi, Aidan.
Oh, hey. Hi, hello.
So I did want to talk about that, the trend of young men becoming more religious than young women, because the New York Times put out this piece in late September saying, in a first among Christians, young men are more religious than young women. Generation Z's gender divide can be seen in the pews. It has the potential to reshape both politics and family life. And they noted here, for the first time in modern American history, young men are now more religious than their female peers. They attend services more often and are more likely to identify as religious. A 21-year-old Christian student at Baylor University said young men are attracted to harder truths. Sometimes, he added, he wants to hear messages with a little, quote, wrath of God in them. A campus ministry leader at UC Irvine says that for some young men he counsels, Christianity is perceived as, quote, one institution that isn't initially and formally skeptical of them as a class.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very strong language, and it's very true.
I know that when I look around, first of all, I've seen a lot of people who have been, men in my life who have been atheist or agnostic for years, who are coming to religion. So I'm watching it happen in real time amongst my friends. Yeah. But I think part of it too is, what Christianity does for men, if it's proper Christianity, is it kicks us in the ass. And it says, here's what a man is supposed to be. Why aren't you that? And that's what a good priest, a good pastor, a good faith leader will do. If you come to them as a man and you say, I feel like something is wrong, they're going to ask you, well, are you being a man the way men were designed? Right. And a lot of men aren't. And I think that it's not entirely men's fault. I do think that to some extent, there has been outside influence on it. But also, when's the last time you went camping with your friends, with the guys? When's the last time you went to church? When's the last time you went out just to get a beer with the boys without the intention of meeting girls? And
I mean, this all goes back to like society is not like, it's not just a religious and spiritual problem, it's a cultural problem, because our culture right now, like, you want to go camping, you need to have a permit.
Yeah. Like, we're working on, like, Lore Lodge, my company, one thing we're working on in the future, our biggest plan, we want to buy a whole bunch of land and offer people free camping. Come in, leave a credit card with us, whatever you need, tent, hiking boots, campfire supplies, whatever it is, take it, it's free, go camp. And like, get in the woods.
Like America's pioneer identity and pioneer past, I think that's masculine. I think it's a masculine trait to be a pioneer, to venture out into the unknown and conquer what's out there. That's a masculine thing.
Three now, yeah.
And so we're not just...
Thank you, guys. Hold that thought, Kelly.
They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats,
I don't mind talking over it, but
Yeah.
it's hard because it's such a silly song.
It is. You don't want to say something poignant in the middle of that.
So
anyway,
we're just
you were
abandoning
saying.
we're just abandoning what it means to be an American on top of leaving men in the dust. You know?
Well, it surprised me because, as they said in this piece, it's previously been accepted as just an evolutionary fact almost that women are naturally, somehow primordially more religious than men. And that defies understanding now that this new generation is going against the grain on that trend. Women are walking out of churches, men are walking in, and it's really that is a great sign that young men are returning to faith. However, it's a bad sign for young men and young women pairing up and starting families, having shared values, having that shared foundation of belief.
I do want to point to one thing. I honestly think that women will follow. I think that because if you, as a young man, go to a church and you are living a lifestyle where you're actually positively masculine and you are living not to get stoned or drunk or just pick chicks up, I think that's attractive to women. Now, the religion part may not be attractive to your average feminist, but girls that are looking to meet good men, and you hear constantly, oh, the good men, where are all the good men, blah, blah, blah. Girls that are looking for good men, they're going to realize the good men are actually at church.
Yep.
And I really do think that generally, and this might sound a little sexist, but I don't care. I think that women are more easily influenced by their surroundings and by looking to acquire the things they're looking for. And if there's a guy that they like that's going to church, they'll go to church for him. They'll go to church with him. And, you know, and if you are, like, I'm an agnostic a little on, or I'm a kind of an agnostic guy, but if you are a believer, then, you know, the right thing would be to say, you know, once the girl's going to church, then let God do his work, right?
We have a few new $20 super chats.
A lot of them, actually.
Cody Dysfunctional said, "Hey, Phil, me and the wife saw you in Noblesville.
Sick.
You guys did great. Don't worry about mics not working. We were happy to see you.
Oh, yeah, the mic
I
was
rejoined
blowing
my
up that
church in December, and it's tripled since. A revival is among us." And then another from Sergeant Buck. "I'm not religious, but Jordan Peterson turned me on to appreciating the Bible for a literary and storytelling perspective. I don't think the events in the Bible were 100% historical, but the stories in it are valuable."
You'd be surprised at how much the Bible is historically accurate.
Maybe listen to Weird Bible.
Yeah. So hey, just saying, we have a show
Shameless
about
plug.
that.
Is there another one?
There is another one.
Okay.
That Stanzatastic said, "Hi, Phil. Did you bring the milk and cigs you left to get so long ago? Did we catch you up on all the cringe? Your boom or doom? Do you
Boom
Tor?
or doom?
Was your tour boom or doom?
That was a boom.
You ever work with Rise Against? Funny they say they're counterculture, right? Borax, so good." Okay, so there's a lot in there.
So I wanted to piggyback off what you just said, Phil, and it's women, we know that they're more agreeable by nature. So when society's expectation is that, at least American society, was you go to church, I think that's why so many women went. So even when American culture started to stray away from the church, women were still holding on to it a little bit. But now
the consensus has shifted.
But now that, like, the average Joe is not religious and not church going.
Well, no, I take issue with that, but go ahead.
I mean, that's pretty much it.
I have a thought as well.
I just think that's why you see women abandoning the church, because there's no expectation from society anymore.
So why do you disagree?
Because
Sorry.
men, well, there is no society that doesn't have religion. Okay, like you look at any human society in all of human history, no matter how far they are apart in time or in space, like on the other side of the world, they all had some kind of religion. So if you don't have one religion, it's going to be replaced with another.
Sure.
And now we have a modern day, you know, facsimile of religion. They call it secularism, but it's actually worship of the state and worship of the self.
I agree.
Christians would say that it's Satanism because worship of the self is Satanism and stuff. So
I would say it's liberalism.
well, I mean, I don't want to get into the whole liberalism, not liberalism conversation with you right now.
We're not even going to go there.
We're
today.
not because
we're not even starting.
Yeah,
that.
because I am of the opinion that at least English liberalism is actually a positive thing, not
So-
a negative
Yeah,
thing.
I think.
But the point that I'm making is, religion is not just about spirituality. It's a form of communication. It's a language. It's a way that people relate to each other. Catholics can get together on one side of the planet, can get together with Catholics from another side of the planet, and they're all going to know the same stuff, and they're going to be able to communicate, and they're going to be able to hang out. They may not even speak the same language, but it won't really matter because they'll be able to communicate that language, and they'll feel like we're the same. And so the idea that you can have a society without religion, I don't think there is a society without religion. So it's really just picking which religion you
We
want.
have a $50.
Yep.
We have a $50 super chat
Ooh.
from Sithkill. I just wanted to say I appreciate all of you. I'm happy that you're bringing awareness to this issue. Your different perspectives on these societal issues are refreshing and honestly inspiring. Keep it up, y'all.
Sick.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I agree there. I should have probably maybe have said the church specifically or Christianity rather than just religion as a whole, because they just traded it for the state.
Yeah, I think, what you were saying about community is a huge part of, I think, why church attendance looked the way it did for the last 50 years. Because really, up until like the 70s, the church was the center of a lot of communities. I mean, that was where you gathered. You were usually there like Sunday and Wednesday in a lot of places. Some places, if you read, some older, I guess you would call it like older YA literature, like, the Maniac McGee's and those kind of books. What you see a lot of is like, kids would leave school in the middle of the day to go to church on a Wednesday, and half the class would go to the Presbyterian church and half the class would go to the Catholic church, and they'd be there for 2 hours. And they'd just be doing religious stuff because it was such an integral part of the community. Men started to be less attached to the church. They started to hang out in other places. But when women had lesser social liberty, I would call it, the church was one of the few places that they could go and gather and nobody would be asking questions. You could go to the church, you could gather at the church, you could hang out, you could do church potlucks, you could do all that. It was a way to have a community that was pre-established. You didn't really have to think about it. Everybody there had the same beliefs as you. And then I think as time went on, as the church became less of a center of the community and there were more and more opportunities to find community outside of it, because remember, men went to work every day, then they would go to happy hour, have some drinks with their buddies, and then they'd come home and have dinner with the wife. The women did not have that. So the church was where they could gather. As that became not the case, you saw men were leaving the church first, so there were fewer of them, and then women started to do it as well. I think what we're starting to see is the amount of opportunities for community has become so fractured, and there are so many different places you can go. Social media as well. Like I have guys that I game with and we have a great time together, but we have different religious beliefs. We have different political beliefs sometimes. It's great we can get along and have a good time, but it's a lot harder to find a group of people with whom you connect at a very, spiritual level.
The fundamental level.
Yeah, exactly.
We do need to wrap this up soon, but one thing I want to say about like this, what's being called the male loneliness epidemic, is that I've noticed a lot of young guys, or guys in general, they think that they're kind of above the need for social connection. And to an extent, compared to women, they need a lot less of it. And it looks far different when men hang out together than when women do. So you wouldn't consider it the same thing, but no one is above the need for deep friendship. It just looks different between men and women.
Dudes hanging out can be just dudes doing a thing. Like
usually it's that. There's a third thing.
Yeah,
there's a third focus.
When I was growing up, my dad and his buddy, he would work, do the normal work during the week. And then on Saturdays, him and his buddy would go and cut trees. And they were just going and hanging out, really. But they were cutting trees down. Now they were making a little money because they were, doing it for money. But the point wasn't making money because they made plenty of money working during the week. It was, we're hanging out.
Yeah.
They got together. They cut trees together every Saturday morning. They get up early because they're, dudes, and they're up at 5 or 6 or whatever. And then,
kill me.
And then they're done by 1.
There's a pretense.
Yeah. It's like, oh, look, we're doing this, but it is, we're both working to achieve a goal. It's the goal that brings men together. One of the things that men need is they need something to strive for, whether it be they're doing like my dad building or cutting trees or whatever. But that's the way that men, that's the way that men spend time together.
Thank you guys. Is that number 4 today?
I think so.
That is
Thank you so much.
I know you wanted to move off of the topic. I wanted to add on to that really quick. Like, yeah, men need, I think that's part of what's going on with men around the world with depression. Men are so used to having like an actual task. Like, I'm going to go to my job today and I'm going to build a house. Now I'm going to go to my job today and I'm going to put numbers into a spreadsheet. And that doesn't do anything. Like, for us,
alienated from the products of their labor.
It feels like we're just kind of
Easy
cogs in a
with that.
No, I mean, I think part
tiger.
of the reason why communism was so enticing in the modern era, in the post-industrial era, is because it correctly diagnosed a lot of social alienation that was happening in that era.
It just tried to make it like, just one last thing.
One last thing.
One thing I want to say is, what I do see a lot right now is there's 2 different forms of masculinity being, pushed to people. There is the red pill kind of thing, the Andrew Tates, the people who are like, hey, make money, disrespect women so you can get laid, which is really funny to me. Like, okay, your masculinity is entirely centered around women getting into bed with you. And then you've got the other thing, which I think one of the best examples of this on the internet right now is the Unsubscribe guys. The Unsubscribed podcast.
Yeah. Those guys are great.
Brandon Herrera, Cody, whose last name is escaping me, Eli, and Nick, Fat Electrician. Like, they'll just go to an escape room and they're just guys being dudes having a good time. If you've ever been in the same room as these guys, they're huge. They are massive guys. All of them could kick your ass.
Eli's like 5'10".
He's not super tall, but he's built. Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, there's our episode on their show. It's funny for me and Thornbury because we're sitting there in the middle of it and we don't feel like we're especially small people. Like, I don't think I'm an especially small person. I look like a twig. So these guys are masculine, they're big, they're guys being dudes, but they're not, like, the whole thing is about guys being dudes and striving together as men to be better for the sake of being better, not to impress people, but just to be a better person.
Guys being dudes, what's better than this? We have a 20 before we get into more of the super chats. John Black said, to piggyback off Kellen, since women continued to go to church and men abandoned it, it became effeminate. And to back up Mary's article, young men are coming back. But to Mattis's point, there aren't older men preaching the wrath of God. Well, if you read that piece from the New York Times, which you should, you will see some comments from pastors that they interviewed. And pastors have seen a huge surge in young men attending church. They have noticed that message resonates, and it's great because that message is true, and you don't need to bend the truth of the gospel in order to give it to them. So let's read some of these other super chats. Shane H. Wilder said, happy thrashing Taco Tuesday, Mary, Aidan, Kellen, and the returning hero, Phil. We have missed you, brother. Mary
Cheers.
is fine, but Brett needs a talking to.
Why does Brett need a talking to?
I guess we'll find out when he's back.
So many reasons.
Potatoes for Seamus said, ask Aidan about a beautiful husky for adoption.
Yeah. So we got news that there was an 8-month-old husky that was going to be euthanized after less than a week in a shelter in Philadelphia. So I called that shelter and left a very angry voicemail, basically telling them either don't euthanize the dog and let somebody foster it, because they wouldn't let somebody foster it. They were like, no, it needs to be adopted. I'm like, okay, that's dumb. Yeah, it's a husky. They're a lot of work, but I think foster care is better than death. So I was basically like, if you euthanize the dog, I will put your entire organization on blast tomorrow to 2 million people. Thankfully, we received news. The dog has been fostered out to a husky rescue.
There we go.
Very sweet.
I put it into my Discord, and one of the most incredible things I've ever seen happened, which was probably about 100 people came together and were like, how do we save this dog? I will donate money. I will come pick it up. I will care for it for a few days so somebody can come grab it. Like, I saw just an incredible display of humanity in that Discord today, and I am again just so proud of that community because just in the past week they've donated $7,000 to help Hurricane Helene victims.
Nice.
Via a Red Cross fundraiser we set up. So, I mean, just incredible community.
The best community. I
am so proud of the lodge as a whole.
Greg Duvier said, finally, the multi-platinum and gold record-selling failed musician Commander Phil Labonte has returned to Pop Culture Crisis.
It's good to be back.
I'm a failed podcaster.
What was your favorite city out of all the stops on the tour?
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, you can't pick favorites like
every
that.
city was his favorite city the night he was there.
Which city had the best meal? What was the best meal?
The catering in Chicago was pretty great. Catering in Chicago was
You have some
legit.
deep dish.
I would have guessed something in the South. I don't know why, but
This is pretty great. Greg Duvier said, as you were on tour, you released a single. It was fantastic, but I sit here as I patiently wait. But there is no new album. There is no new album.
The single was called No Tomorrow. There is an album coming. There's
Yes.
actually another song coming very soon, too.
nice.
So
Were you performing the single?
we did a couple times, but we were doing the two that had been out for a little while.
Okay.
So there's three songs that we have released. We have Divine, Let You Go, and No Tomorrow. We released No Tomorrow while we were on tour, and we were performing Divine and Let You Go on the tour. We only had time for 6 songs, like 30 minutes. So we
And
had
there's one more coming.
Well, there's multiple more coming, but there's another one coming very soon. Then there will be another one probably when we announce the release date of the record.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay.
it'll be staggered. So
Right.
there's things coming all the way through next year, and record will come next year sometime.
Sweet.
And so
We did a little reaction to the Coming Home music video on the show.
oh yeah,
We loved it.
Awesome.
It was great. Shane H. Wilder said, I figured it out. Kellen is Timu Tom Selleck.
oh
Damn.
harsh
I mean-
man, harsh.
I'll take it. Like if
I'll take it, whatever.
Like it's still Tom Selleck, man.
We have
It
a
is Tom
20
Selleck.
from That Stanza-tastic. Why are we getting off topic? We should just keep it going. Bring Shoe on Head to talk about the male loneliness thingy. That story about the husky is a white pill I really needed. Side topic, gaming podcast. When, Kellen?
Well, we have a gaming podcast here at
Yeah.
Timcast called Gamer Maids.
So that's there.
So
Are
that's
you ever
there.
on it?
No, because I don't want to be on a show called Gamer Maids.
It would make you gay mermaid.
Well, that's a joke there. It was a joke, and then it became the name of the show.
Yeah.
But no, we do have a gaming podcast. If you search Gamer and then Maids on YouTube, you can find it.
Yeah.
I told them one of these days I'll get on it.
The Manic Mustache said, Mr. Labonte, I am disappointed. Nephew came back from your LA show with both of his socks and no part of his face melted. He had an amazing time, and that's all that really matters. Stay toxic, my friends.
Cheers.
That's sweet. Greg Duvier said, oh, I think that's a repeat. Thank you anyway. Shane H. Wilder said 139K and still no play button. Boo, YouTube. Boo. Yeah,
Are you
we're
sure?
being
They're
held down.
slow.
I don't know what's going on, but we're waiting on more robot
It
responses.
took
right
All That
now.
Remains. It took a long time for them
Oh.
to get us the All That Remains play button.
It took about
we
2
have
months for us.
a $20 super chat from the Lore Lodge.
Oh.
For anyone interested in donating or assisting in the relief, our most recent live has a fundraiser as well as information about local organizations that are on the ground.
Yeah, just
Thank you for
wanted
that.
to put that out
Sick.
there. Yeah.
You didn't have to pay to say it,
Well,
but I
you guys some
appreciate it
money.
nonetheless.
Donated to the cause.
Okay, Kay Burles said, I've done security for a ton of bands, including Chad while he was with Hell Yeah. If I get to work security for you, I'll say the magic word, bro. What does that mean?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Might be. Someone came with a sign to the meet and greet with a sign that said the left lane is for crime, and so I was
Nice.
impressed with that. I was like, that rules. They were like, can we hold the sign? I'm like, what does the sign say? And they held it up. I was like, fucking.
Okay.
Pardon my French.
We're gonna move it along. We'll catch up with super chats later, but I wanted to talk about Kamala Harris's recent appearance on the Call Her Daddy podcast. Now, I would assume most of you don't listen to the Call Her Daddy podcast.
The Let's Get Cancer podcast.
First of all, most of our audience is male, so that makes sense. But even the women who watch this show are ladies, so they don't watch such disgusting drivel as Call Her Daddy. And I feel I need to take this opportunity to just say I'm on a one-woman crusade against Call Her Daddy. I have hated this podcast for years, and I'm glad that people are finally catching up. So Kamala Harris decided that during a national crisis in many different forms, but specifically Hurricane Helene, it was her best opportunity to go on a sex podcast with Call Her Daddy's Alex Cooper to talk about women's rights.
I see the vision.
Obviously, it's the
wait.
most important issue that everyone needs to be talking about right now.
I know next to nothing about Call Her Daddy.
Here's-
Is it really a sex podcast?
We have a
Yeah.
clip to show you to explain that, what the show is for. So here, let's just show you the clip to
How do you-
familiarize you.
All right, here we go.
to work with the balls and the asshole. Okay,
on
so
a man.
the balls, like, it really depends on the guy. Like,
It
some
does.
guys don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some have less sensitivity, and you can tug on them.
Yes.
Put them all in your mouth.
Please don't tug on my balls.
Some
Other
guys,
guys are like, fuck.
yeah, it hurts whenever
Yeah.
you try to do it.
And it's so interesting to always see like the difference in the balls because some have like really tight, smaller
Really
ones,
saggy
and then
ones.
other really saggy.
Interesting fact about Mike, I don't know if this is every guy, but he has something that we call like morning balls. In the morning, they're like super tight, like sucked up, like looks like a 12-year-old.
Okay, I think we've heard
Yes,
enough.
they're like really tight and
I think we've heard enough.
So is this,
Okay,
So this is
imagine if
essentially-
men did a podcast like this talking about labias.
No, it's insane. It's insane. And this podcast has existed for several years now. It started out with 2 hosts. Alex Cooper is the remaining host. It's gone through a bit of an evolution where it used to be more vulgar, as you just saw. And it's gone through an evolution where now Alex Cooper mainly interviews celebrities and now politicians. And this was her opportunity to talk about women's rights. So she prefaced this episode saying, I'm the host of Call Her Daddy. I know I'm not, qualified to be talking about political issues, but I am qualified to talk about abortion. Thank you for the 5th crisis
boy.
party today.
Somebody did put in chat earlier, they're saving the dogs, they're saving the cats.
I like that. Okay.
Isn't it? Didn't you guys talk about a few weeks? Didn't you guys talk about a few weeks ago about Gen Z's actually like skipping through sex scenes in movies and TV shows?
Yep.
Yeah, so I assume
just
the listenership for Call Her Daddy is mostly
Millennials.
narcissistic millennial women who their top priority in life is being able to open their legs to as many strangers as possible to get splooged in, and that
I did
means
not
that
like the
their
way you said that
number
at all.
one issue for what they're deciding in this
Are
election
they living
is
vicariously
abortion,
through-
because abortion allows them to decide to
Keep
be as
going.
promiscuous as possible with 0 consequences. So that's why this was the main topic of that episode. So I just wanted to watch a couple of clips of that episode and we can react.
You wanna do the Kamala
This
one?
is the first one. Can we think of any law that gives the government the power to make a decision about a man's body? Let's hear Kamala's response.
And I want to pose this question more to you and the Daddy Gang, but one of the biggest conversations in this year's election revolves around a woman's body.
Yep.
I want to take a moment and can we try to think of any law that gives the government the power
She
to
really
make a
thinks she's
decision
I know
She really thinks she's cooking right
She's
now.
just
about
quoting Kamala
a
from the
man's
Kavanaugh trial.
body. Let's
No.
just pause.
No.
You
Is there any law?
absolute idiot.
No. No.
Hey, wait, real quick.
It's no. Look, we are a work in progress. But here's one of the many things I so love about our country. Part of the strength of our country and our evolution as a country has been through the fight for the expansion of rights. Not the restriction of rights, but the expansion of rights. And we still have work to do. But I say that that work is born out of love of country. And it's hard work, but it's good work, and it's important work. And that's what's
Dude, I'm
before
thinking
each
about
of
running
us,
for
and I think
president.
that,
I could do it better than this.
you know, around election time, but every day, back to the conversation that we've been having about power.
She has yet to say anything.
The beauty
of course.
a
Did you expect her
democracy
to?
Is that we each, as individuals,
Oh.
have the power to weigh in on this stuff.
I've got the formula for Kamala's answers. One sentence buzzwords, predictive text word salad.
Yep.
Well, it's the sign
That's
of
all
a
it is.
liar.
She-
It's the sign of a liar if someone can talk at length about absolutely nothing and make it grammatically coherent.
Well,
you know?
that's the thing that I always think when I see her, and a lot of people should think before they speak. Nobody should have to think for that long before saying 6 words.
right.
The work that we do is important, and because we do that work, we are important.
Now,
And
And the
Obviously-
importance of work is that work is important.
The retort to this was obviously the existence of the draft.
Yeah, Mary, did
Right.
you have to like put all your information onto a little card in order to vote or get student
No,
loans or
no.
anything? Yeah, I remember. It's so crazy. I feel like I remember doing that.
I mean, and like just because there's not like a legal difference, I mean, back to the first segment that we had on today's episode. Dude, society has different expectations for men and women. So just because there's not a legal difference
Well, also, I mean,
Well, which there is. We
all
already
laws,
debunked that.
all laws are enforcing something over your body and your personhood. Obviously,
No,
if
no,
you
you didn't
break
listen
a
to
law,
her. We're
you will go
expanding
to
rights.
prison. At gunpoint, you will be forced into a cell.
Yes.
Like, that is literally control over your body.
That apply. I think the question. I do understand the question was more about like there are some laws that only apply to women. Are there any laws that only apply to men? And I think you made a good point that society's expectations often put women before men. For example, if you're on a sinking boat, who gets saved first? It's women and children.
There you go.
And men are expected to be helping people get off the boat, knowing that the lifeboat's right there and they could get on it and live, but they need to stay behind and risk death.
When you're in a crowded subway or a bus, it's expected that the men get up and give his seat to a woman, which is fine. It's like, when we bring these things up, we're not complaining about the role that is expected of us as men, but almost we're highlighting the hypocrisy of call her daddy of society, of modern day feminism.
It's not just hypocrisy. It's what was really
idiocy.
disgraceful. Yeah. It's just the lowbrow nature of what this podcast is, what it represents, who listens to it it's so disgraceful that like our current vice president is on this podcast.
Are we shocked though when 50 Shades of Grey was like a top seller for how long?
Well,
Are we shocked?
I don't think it's a problem. I don't think that the fiction that women choose to read is a problem.
No.
That is something that that is going to be an issue for society. But that woman as president is a massive problem. So there's two options, right? She's either going to actually be the president and be a total buffoon because she's clearly an idiot, or if she gets elected, she's not the president and it's run by essentially, a committee,
right,
and she's just a figurehead, and then there's absolutely no accountability for the executive at all. Both of those options are terrible for the United States. And the fact that there are people that watch that and are convinced, that believe that is a good answer, that believe what she said, don't even think of the Selective Service Act. Don't even think of the fact that the federal government, her administration, was trying to use OSHA to get people to take the shot, whether they liked it or not.
Right.
So the idea that the federal government has never made an attempt to affect the bodies of men is absolutely wrong, and they are laughing about it as if it's a fact. They're even being so just too stupid to even look into reality. So it's a terrible, terrible development that this is even a possibility. It's absolutely atrocious.
That's why
Sorry, there's a $20 that I missed earlier from Nate. Please let Mary cook. Thank you.
Also, just because this is actually relevant.
Sorry, we have another one from Sith Kill. I liked Tim's comment on this. There is a law specifically on men's bodies. It's called the draft. I didn't think of it that way, but I agree with how he worded it.
Actually, when I was on Timcast, we had that conversation.
Yeah.
It's not about like whether or not you have to deal with the repercussions of your actions, because that's all abortion is. Abortion is women not wanting to deal with the repercussions of their action. They say, oh, well, what about incest and rape? That is a vanishingly small number of abortions are for that. And every time any conservative or Republican has said, well, okay, we'll write something into the law for that,
enough.
then will you go ahead and support it? They still say no. Because no, it doesn't. It's not that it's not enough. It's that they refuse to endorse anything that has any kind of limitations on the ability to get out of the repercussions of your actions. Women are empowered to have sex with whoever they want, whenever they want, and they're told they don't have to deal with the repercussions. And that's the whole point of this. So this isn't even about whether or not you live or die. It's not about, oh, it destroys my life. It means that you have to deal with the repercussions of having promiscuous sex or having sex. And you're pregnant, you have to have the baby. They say, oh, it's forcing women to be pregnant. No one forced you to have sex, so you're not being forced to be pregnant.
Yes.
You're being forced to deal with the repercussions of you getting pregnant. Whereas with men, you're forced to go into a combat zone and possibly die if they tell you to.
Yeah.
We got another 20 from Gordon Shumway. Kamala Harris sounds like Sphinx from Mystery Men, just repeats the same sentence over and over again in a different way and overall says nothing. I will just say, like, personally, as a woman, I am so sick and tired of this fake ass dialectic that I have to engage in with the type of feminists who listen to the Call Her Daddy podcast, who believe themselves to be the empowered, liberated ones. They believe themselves to be emancipated from men entirely. And they're the ones who are so addicted to dick appointments that, I mean, they simply can't live without their dick appointments, to the point where this is their number one deciding issue. They are single issue voters, and the single issue is, I must have access to unlimited dick appointments with zero consequences. They are addicted to men. I mean, they live off of it. I mean, they need male validation more than you can possibly imagine. And they're telling me that I, as the woman who does not support abortion,
which is like half of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's still quite a lot of us in America, actually. I, as the one who doesn't support this monstrousness, I am the one who's being a pick-me for male validation by doing so. No, actually, well, it's the complete opposite.
Another thing they pointed out was, hey, in America, we're trying to expand rights.
Yeah,
it's like, that sounds great, but it's like you're completely disregarding the rights of that being, that human being that is growing inside the woman. You're not even factoring in or considering the rights of a fetus, in the name of giving women more rights. Like it's Phil, you're saying like how stupid they are, but you got to realize that's why Kamala has supporters. Because they're like, she's just like me for real.
Well, their votes are just as valuable as yours.
They are low info voters. Everything you just said, they will embrace with open arms, Mary. They don't take it as a dig. They're like, of course I want unlimited access. You think you're going to offend me?
There's no point in pointing out, the hypocrisy, because they embrace the hypocrisy. They love it.
There is no point pointing out the hypocrisy.
So they spent, I don't know how many decades convincing this generation of millennial and Gen Z women that abortion is the only thing. That's life or death. That is the only issue to care about. But it's
the only issue really that activates female voters, which is the biggest risk factor for Trump in this election. Aside from all of that, I mean, because this is a pop culture show, what I mainly wanted to focus on is just the fact that Call Her Daddy exists, and by the way, is the #1 podcast for women. The #1 podcast for women. This is the most popular podcast that women listen to. And a lot of people still haven't even heard of it. And when I've brought it up in the past, I've even had people who are self-avowed, right-wing conservatives tell me, why are you even giving it attention? You shouldn't be talking about this. You're just shining a light on the degeneracy. You should just talk about something more constructive, something that's generating something new. No, we need to talk about these things. We need to shed light on these things. And if you're ignorant of the fact that Call Her Daddy even exists, or if you're ignorant of the reach it has, the influence it has, and why Kamala's team thought this was important in the first place, you've got to be part of the problem. There's no other way I can see it.
I have a question for you. Why does it seem like is driving women towards this sexual content? Because if you look at the top show on TV, it's Love Island, right? Top podcast, Call Her Daddy. Top books usually have a lot of intimacy and sexual scenes in them, like top novels. What is this coming from? Mary, I can only ask you because I am completely clueless. What is pushing young women or women in general towards these sexualized themes?
Well,
in all of media.
I said most of the listenership, if I had to guess, for Call Her Daddy is millennial women. But if we're talking about Gen Z women, since, statistically we know that they came of age in the Me Too generation, and they are the most uptight, neurotic generation that has walked the earth in perhaps all of history. Maybe this is the way they feel is hygienic to engage with sexuality, is to do so from listening to a podcast, reading a book, or going on a dating app. Because this is all a device I can use to engage with sexuality rather than actual intimacy with another human being that leads to the creation of life. That's my best guess. But anyway, I just wanted to end on listening to Kamala Harris reveal her bedroom secrets on Call Her Daddy, because this is a sex podcast after all.
Wait, what? Did she? What?
I'm just kidding. I should say, YouTube, please don't censor us. This is an AI generated clip, but I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to share it with all of you.
I know her husband's into, adultery, but
Some weird stuff, yeah. Let's take a listen.
Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Alex. It's really great to be here.
We are 1 month out from the election. My audience is basically just whores and gay guys. Why should they vote for you?
I think it's simple.
Because they were planning
vote
to already.
For me, and you'll have the first hoe in chief. Or
Hoe in chief. Hold on, pause.
that is like a Trump ad. She just made a Trump ad.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
Damn, no one's dancing.
I'm trying to make Kamala's face right now.
Eating the cats. The cat.
The hoe in chief. Okay.
So sassy, so
I love
brave.
that you just called yourself hoe in chief. My audience of girl boss
me off this
whores
ride.
really can relate to that.
Get me
Google my
off this
name.
ride.
And Willie Brown or Montel Williams, it's not an act.
I love it. You've been married to Doug for 10 years now. What does he like in the bedroom?
I'd say I'm probably the more adventurous one between the two of us. He's pretty vanilla, but that pairs real nice with some chocolate.
Is this AI?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
thank
All
God.
kinds of stuff. Breath play, knife play, some light BDSM. He really loves to get pegged.
Most people would assume that.
That's definitely his
people would
favorite.
assume that.
He likes it when I put a ball gag in his mouth and peg him while calling him my dirty little whore.
Okay, this is
This
enough.
this could
enough.
just
This
go
is
right
enough.
to SNL. If SNL had
can't, I
any
can't.
balls,
I
if
can't.
SNL had any balls, they'd just make that.
Of course, yeah. And I should
And it
just
would be
mention,
funny.
Kamala appeared on the podcast that is known for coining the term Gluck Gluck 9000.
Yuck, yuck.
And I just thought I would mention that for no reason at all. Now, I want to ask you guys, since Trump got the official invite from Alex Cooper to appear on Call Her Daddy as well, do you think that he should do it? Would that be a good idea for Trump
No.
right now?
No.
He doesn't know how to simplify it for that audience.
I think it would be great for JD Vance to go on
No.
Call Her Daddy.
No, no one should give them the time of day. They're not going to convince anyone that watches
agree.
Call Her Daddy to vote for Trump. So
No.
there's no reason to go on there, because the only thing that could possibly happen is they can take clips out of context or bring up issues that make him look bad. There is nothing to be gained by going on that podcast. No.
There is
I don't know
someone
how
who
I
could
feel
gain.
about it.
There is someone who could gain, and it's Chase Oliver.
Or Alex
Chase,
Cooper, obviously.
Chase is for the gays, being as he is one. He is apparently into some weird stuff. I think he could do it.
Wait, I'm not familiar with
Chase
this.
Oliver
Chase
is the guy
Oliver.
that's running for the Libertarian Party. But
Okay, yeah.
Basically, the Libertarian Party went, what do libertarians like? Okay, pick a guy who's the opposite of
What
all
a
of those
name,
things.
Chase Oliver, huh?
Well, here's the issue why I don't think anyone that's actually trying to have an honest conversation should go on that podcast.
No.
Is it's a Mark Twain quote where when you argue with idiots, they're going to bring you down to their level and
And
they're
beat you
going to
with
beat you
experience.
with experience. You cannot win when going up against Alex Cooper. How many episodes has she
there's
done?
nothing to gain.
There's nothing to gain except make a fool out of yourself for all the peanut gallery that is her audience.
I don't know how I feel about it. Like, at the same time, I totally understand what you're saying, Phil. Like, it could only go badly for him. I can see so many ways that it would be terrible for Trump. But at the same time, I see that Trump usually shines when he's in an antagonistic environment, an antagonistic interview. And I don't know, like, he thinks on his feet. That's why I said not JD. Like, it would be even worse if JD went on. But Trump,
Maybe
there's
my-
potential.
I think
Maybe
my
Vivek.
My point is, right now we're less than 30 days from the election. It looks like Trump's leading, right, in most of the places that he needs to.
True.
Or it's really close, and he's not gonna. There's no upside to going on it. Not for the memes. Sure, if it was June, or if it was May, or if it was April, get on there.
Well,
Okay,
Yeah.
fine. It'd be
Yeah.
fun.
I see where you're coming
Within
from.
30 days of
Not
the
now.
election, there is zero benefit. There is not. It is not worth the risk. Don't go on there. It's only going to be a bad result. Again, it's not that your points aren't right about whether it would be entertaining, but this
Peak
is
comedy.
a purely political decision. There is nothing to be gained for Donald Trump going on there. Nothing.
well, I mean, Trump, JD, Kamala, even, you're always welcome on Pop Culture Crisis.
I
if
think-
you're listening.
And if that's a pro-abortion fan base, right? If he just says we gave it back to the states, that's a red flag for them. They're going to freak out. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think any time would have been a good idea. But I was saying, if there was ever someone in that, like, right-wing conservative media sphere, maybe Vivek would know how to speak their language, you know?
Maybe.
Alex
Well,
Stein.
we're already...
Alex Stein on Call Her Daddy.
That would be
let's do it.
incredible. I need to
Come
see
on,
that.
Alex, make it happen.
We're already a little bit short on time, so I do want to get to the last topic of the day. Gen Z attempts to cancel Cannibal Corpse.
Impossible!
I'm really curious about
It's
your
like
opinion
impossible
specifically.
plus unacceptable
Exactly.
combined.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just saw this because you tweeted about it. Gen Z attempts to cancel Cannibal Corpse. In a clash of generations and ideologies, death metal legends Cannibal Corpse finds itself under siege from a new wave of critics, Gen Z. Known for their graphic lyrics and imagery, the band has long been a lightning rod for controversy, but now a vocal segment of the younger generation is demanding the band's cancellation, claiming their music promotes violence, misogyny, and harmful stereotypes.
It does. That's the point.
I don't think anything Cannibal Corpse has ever written was written with sincerity.
Stripped, Raped, and Strangled is a great song. Entrails ripped from a virgin's cunt is quality death metal. These are real song titles.
So I can't say certain words, but he can say that.
I'm not saying that.
It's
That's
a song title.
I know.
Okay.
But like, look, legitimately, the point of Cannibal Corpse is to do all of the things that Gen Z is upset about. They're a gore band. They are the music equivalent of a slasher film. It is not that they are actually, pro murder or anything. But, like I said, it is the musical equivalent of a slasher film. If you think that Cannibal Corpse must be canceled, then you should probably cancel like every horror movie that's ever had violent murders in it, and that's not going to happen. The vocal minority that is having a conniption fit about Cannibal Corpse needs to shut their mouths. They're just everyone's tired of you anyways. No one's going to listen to you. Shut up. And Cannibal Corpse isn't going anywhere.
They don't care.
They do not care. They've been doing this since 1990.
Well, yeah, most importantly, you cannot cancel someone who doesn't care.
Yeah. Also, Cannibal Corpse is not, they've got their following, but they're not Metallica. They're not a band that is listened to by people who don't sincerely enjoy their music already. And those people have been listening to these lyrics for 30 years. They're not going to stop because people who weren't born until the 2010s are mad.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely not.
Well, I looked further into this and where is the outrage coming from, and I saw a Twitter thread from Zoe Must Die. She said, separate art from the artist, but this is the art. And she posted a screenshot of the lyrics from one of their songs called Panty Shot.
The song's called Panty Shot?
That's what it says here. It says 5-year-old panty shot. I can see between her legs. 5-year-old panty shot. Can't complain. And further down in the lyrics, it says, I just can't even say this because I'll get clipped. It's about wanting to have intercourse with a child, and touch children. That's literally. Is that a different band, or am I getting confused?
Yeah, I googled it. The term panty shot is associated with a song by Mindless Self-Indulgence.
Oh, okay, so it's a
Cannibal
totally
Corpse.
different thread.
It's
that
not even the right
started
band?
The discussion.
Yeah.
Then they went further and posted a Cannibal Corpse song below that in the thread.
What's the name of the song?
Necropedophile.
Yeah, that's a song that's definitely expressing their
says-
deep-seated beliefs about what is right.
And it says, I was once a man before I transformed into this molester. Freshly deceased children you have born. Torn by my... I shouldn't even continue.
Yeah, you probably
it.
shouldn't even read this.
But that's also in the same vein as
Listen,
what we just heard.
They're off of that's off the.
you also have to remember-
You want to know what? Have you seen what the cover of Tomb of the Mutilated looks like?
No, I have not.
If you
Send it to Helen, I guess, if you want to.
if you write-
No,
Well,
you
that-
can't. You can't.
You can't? Okay.
Nope, you definitely
Well,
cannot.
this person
I'm
said,
gonna text it to you, Mary.
someone with a watermelon emoji in profile said, I don't care if it's satire or some sick idea of dark humor. This is effing disgusting. And then They continued, I've got nothing against metal or heavy metal because I enjoy it myself and love a guitar riff, but death metal is just weird lyrics, and honestly, I don't think I could get into death metal because of this kind of stuff popping up.
Cry.
I don't listen to death metal. I don't love it, but also I think a lot of people need to remember that like the vocals on this song is like you can't really tell what they're saying a lot of
the
it.
lyrics
Unless
are.
you listen to death metal, it's hard to understand death metal vocalists.
I don't think that matters for people. I don't think the problem is getting upset over. I don't think the problem is getting upset over lyrics like this. I think the problem is Gen Z is doing the most when they try to cancel this stuff, right? So they have to organize. There's an expectation on their friends to also denounce this stuff.
Yeah.
How many Gen Z kids listen to Cannibal Corpse?
It's okay to get upset by it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Looking at the Tomb of the Mutilated cover right now.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Look, the point of this band has always been to be as extreme as they possibly can be. They're extreme in the death metal sense. They are a technical band, so they are extreme musically. They're extreme lyrically. Their imagery is all extreme. The intent is to offend. The intent is to upset. And so, Gen Z, congratulations. You are just another in a long line of people that have heard Cannibal Corpse and been revolted.
That's what they're trying to do.
That's the point.
Right. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think you blame anyone for getting upset, but, like, this organized, like, we have to shut them down. Like, that's the problem.
No one cares.
Yeah, I don't think Cannibal Corpse is out there, like, campaigning for NAMBLA.
No.
You know?
No.
Like,
Is it supposed to be written for comedic purposes?
Well, I mean,
I don't know that comedic's the right
it's
term.
the same thing that like this people watch, like I said, like that watch slasher movies, right? Like, so there are some people that watch slasher movies that like the scary part, but there's a whole like group of or genre of movies that are like specifically about visual gore,
like
right?
the Terrifier.
They
movies.
you want to see people cut open and heads cut off and like actual like bloody gore stuff, and that's what Cannibal Corpse is. What they're doing is they're, as much as people don't want to like refuse to call it art or say that it's not art, what they're doing is they're exploring the most extreme aspects of the human psyche when it comes to real morbid stuff, like the really like how gross, awful, you know, how far can you go, and what is, you know, where is the limit when it comes to offensive, and Cannibal Corpse says there is no limit. So they are actually trying to make the most offensive stuff they can. And again, Necropedophile was written in, like, this record came out in 1993. So it's not like this is some
literally
kind of,
before they were born. Before they were a glimmer in their father's eye.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyone that's upset about this, it was written and released and, you know, had its time long before they were born. And on this record has like literally one of the best death metal songs ever written.
I think that's part of the point, because Gen Z is the activist generation. Like young millennials and Gen Z,
they would be
this
less
is a call
outraged.
to action for them. They're like, oh my god, this has been around for this long.
These people are so chronically online. They would be less outraged by an actual child being offended against than a song about it. You know what I mean?
Of course, because they're all pro LGBT stuff, and that is not good for children in reality.
Missed a couple 20s. Pat the Plumber said respect the neck, and Demo said Gen Z with the chud boomer treatment of performative extremes a la 90s parents toward Manson.
Well, this is, every generation has their version of this, like something that older generation likes that you find weird, or something the new generation likes that you find weird. Every generation has these struggles.
What is that for Gen Z that older generations find weird, though? What is
top of my head?
Do they like anything?
Skibbity Ohio Riz?
Must be Skibbity Toilet. I guess Skibbity Toilet is Cannibal Corpse.
What does Gen X like that we find weird?
What does Gen X like?
Cannibal Corpse.
Right.
Well, okay, but I'm asking, is there a vice
Gen
versa?
Z, or if they have kids, they're like really young right now. Like most Gen Z are just now entering
as the kids. What do the older generations find weird that the kids are into these days?
I think a lot.
TikTok dances, like
the internet in general.
I think the things that you and I refer to as cringe are probably all of the same things that they find weird.
I guess.
Like I'm gonna be honest, like I am late Gen Z. I am a 1997 baby, or I'm early Gen Z. Sorry, late millennial, early Gen Z. I'm on that weird cusp. So I look around. I saw a video of like millennials. There was a guy talking in millennial slang, like it was a rap battle with a Gen Z slang guy. I understood every single word the millennial said.
Stuff about booping noses.
Yeah, had no, ooh, what a doggo. Like,
Touch my butt and buy me pizza while we listen to Lana Del Rey.
all the mustache stuff. I remember the Gen Z guy. I'm like, I don't know. All of my siblings are firmly Gen Z. My nearest sibling is 5 years younger than me.
That's what that means. Older Gen Z is becoming unk status, and I'm ready to welcome it.
Dude,
I'm unk.
my girlfriend is like a 2000s baby. She was born in 2001, right before 9/11. Like, there's stuff she says that I'm like, what?
Yeah, and it's because of the way we use the internet, frankly.
Well, the internet's just amplified all these cultural differences we've had between generations. It's now happening more frequently.
Yeah,
pretending to have autism.
Groups of people, like certain groups of people, just should never interact, and I think that's actually the lesson that we have learned from this situation.
We all talk about. I always come back to the main point that social media has made it worse.
Yeah.
Social media made it so that subcultures clashed with each other without actually facing each other, and you can just talk shit without getting hit. And this is the situation that we just witnessed.
I blame social media for furries feeling comfortable doing anything in public.
Exactly. Well, okay, we've got to finish up these super chats or we're never going to get through them. Shane H. Wilder said, loved the article. When I saw you post it, Phil, I was like, must stop what I'm doing. Phil wrote a thing. I must read it now.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Greg Duvier said, you all just lost the game.
That was rude of you.
Damn. Why'd you have to do me like that? Shane H. Wilder said, Greg is a wicked witch who belongs in hell. Pop Culture Junkie said, from my pre-hurricane cinder block bunker in Orlando, charging up my solar-powered backup generator. Congrats on your sub growth. So well deserved. Thank you so much. And it's really exciting to see the channel growing fast. The Rumbling said, welcome back, Devil. Mary, you mean you won't let Brett out of the dungeon you locked him in unless we get to 10 crisis parties? That's exactly what I mean. Have we reached it yet?
We're at, how many are we at today? 4 or 5?
I think we're at 5 today.
So that's 9 total.
We're pretty close. I think we'll make it.
So Brett is coming back if we hit it?
Brett is definitely going to be back. We were going to banish him, but you guys showed yourselves.
Good job.
You made it. You made it possible.
No, on a real note, I
show.
hope the hurricane doesn't impact his travel coming back.
Oh, I highly doubt that will happen.
I don't think it will either, but
yeah,
the timing worries me.
Okay, well, we'll ask him about it.
Me.
Shane H. Wilder said, I thank God every day for having a dad in my life to teach me what it meant to be a man. He may no longer be with us, but those lessons won't leave me. Absolutely. And it's a hard thing to find these days. V-Wit said, GD it Phil, stop making me love you. Also, hi, Kellen.
Hello.
I will not.
Put a Girl On said, is he from that Stuff Leftover band? JK. All that remains is just leftovers.
Yes. Stuff leftover.
Stephen Al-Abadi said, I have to be honest, I've been watching Timcast forever, a few years now. I love Phil, and I just checked out All That Remains, and I'm in love with the music.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No Control said, when do you think the other shoe will drop on the gender pay gap when they suggest the jobs women like should pay the same as the jobs men like?
Well, we're seeing the start of that with Facebook laying off all these, women that did nothing. They're like, here's what it's like to work at Facebook, and they go around to the
here's
coffee.
What it's like to not work at Facebook.
Exactly.
Seems like
those jobs are disappearing.
Their jobs are going to be the ones that disappear first.
A lot of companies are ditching their DEI departments.
Good.
That's going to be how many jobs per company.
That's actually important. I don't know if you guys have heard, and not to cut in real quick, but they're talking about. There were people at FEMA talking about DEI in recovery efforts. They were talking about making sure that there is money allocated for historically marginalized people, as opposed to going to the people that need it first. It's on Twitter. I retweeted it. That's one of the arguments that was made about DEI and why it's so bad, because it infiltrates everything, and then you end up with situations where people die, right? Yeah. If you go and apply DEI to
Search and rescue.
medicine.
Yeah,
You end up with people that need treatment, not getting the treatment because there are people that are a preferred class that get in there, whether or not they need it as bad as the other.
Doesn't
If
matter,
you can't treat, you mess up triage when you have DEI, and the same goes for rescue efforts. And these things infiltrate every aspect of your society when you make it a vital, important part. You have to get rid of it because you end up with people dying. This is how communism killed 100 million people in the 20th century. It wasn't just lining people up against the walls, although there was plenty of that. If you look up Lysenkoism, Tofan Lysenko was a botanist, I guess, but he rejected all of Western science, and he said, look, you got to grow your crops close together if they're alike because they'll help each other survive. And what happened? Famine, and millions of people died. So these kind of dumb things, when they're applied to reality, you end up with dead people. And that's one of the terrible things about socialism and this idea, because it's more than just an economic policy, it's an ideology. So I'll stop my rant.
I do think that one's so funny too, because Catholic monks figured out crop rotation and how to make that work in the 900s.
They were rejecting everything Western. Darwin, they were rejecting Darwin because they were rejecting any Western science. They said anything that's Western is wrong. They were because it's all based in bourgeoisie oppression. And so it ended up killing millions of people.
So you say it's communism a lot, but every time we have these conversations, I'm like, this just more and more is Maoism, which I know is an offshoot.
Okay, we're not even going to go there.
Getting into political philosophies now.
I'm not going to let this show become IRL. This is the last thing we want. Junie said, I can't wait to have my boyfriend's Irish Catholic babies. I'm 29 in the NYC
Congrats.
area, and other women really be hating men and kids openly.
Congrats.
You could leave.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that you should stay in the city and still do that.
Dude,
Stick with that plan.
Listen,
Wish
let
you
him
the best of
fester.
luck.
I hate this. Listen, it's really hard just to get up and uproot your life, especially in this Biden-Harris economy, and that's on purpose. They want you to stay where you are. In the 15-minute cities they're building, they don't want you to leave. They don't want you to escape their
Well, I do.
rule.
I think it's important for conservatives and families in general to have a presence in cities, academia, powerful institutions. I think that is important. Dull and Tired said, question for Aidan, what is your opinion on Gnosticism, specifically Sethian Gnosticism?
I'd have to Google the term really quick to make sure that I understand what we're talking about here, but I can do that.
I mean,
really
if you
quickly.
haven't heard of it, then maybe you don't have an opinion yet.
You'd be surprised how similar all of these things can be. One of the main currents of Gnosticism in the 2nd and 3rd century. What are their beliefs, though?
Sethian
Theology, there it is. In Sethianism, Seth, the third son of Eve and Adam, who is Gnosis first descended upon, whose knowledge the Sethians laid claim as their origin. Norea, the wife of Noah, I don't think that the wife of Noah is named in the Bible, may have also played a role, cosmology. Okay, so yeah, this seems to be a weird interpretation of Genesis 6. And the idea that Genesis 5 and 6, and the idea that Seth was the godly line. I'm guessing that's where that's coming from. I'd have to look more into it. Again, this is a problem with taking one little tiny piece of the Bible and building your entire theology around it. That's not appropriate. You can't do that. The Bible is a complete set of books, and they all rely upon each other for context. If you are reading, Ezekiel without considering what's in Isaiah, you're not going to get the message. So that's how most of this came to be, is you had a bishop or a priest or somebody who went, wait a minute, what does this mean? And then rather than trying to analyze, what they did was they just reconstructed Christianity around their little thing. And you see it a lot now with conspiracy theories. Gnosticism is the ancient version of a conspiracy theory.
You know who you should really have on Weird Bible podcast is...
They're going to tell me Pints with Aquinas again?
Jeff Cavins.
Jeff Cavins.
Yeah. We'll actually talk about that later.
Yeah.
We don't have time right now. Big Dave sent us 99 cents without a message. Thank you. Omega Red Fan said, long hair don't care. Well, I don't know who here has long hair. I guess it's me and Kellen.
Is mine long?
It's long for a guy, I guess.
Oh.
Surinko Productions said there's a reason Satan targeted Eve first. Few mention this, but it's very true.
I don't know that few mention it. I think a lot of people mention that.
I mean, in like the normal world.
Fair enough.
Cesario JPN said China, aka West Taiwan, has no religion, quote unquote religion.
That's not true at all. It's the state.
You would say it's the state, yeah. Shane H. Wilder said, if the mother converts to Christianity, there is a 17% chance the household will. But if the dad converts first, then it jumps to 93%. Yeah,
And
that's
again-
been, I think if the father in a household is church going and takes his kids to church without the mother, they're far more likely to practice in adulthood. The opposite is true for mothers taking their children to church.
And when it comes to like the gender wars of today's day and age, like, stop listening to what people say. Watch what they do, because a lot of people are saying stuff they don't agree with, and they're doing the opposite.
What do you mean by that?
Like,
Eating the dogs, they're eating the
I'll explain.
cats, they're eating the cats.
Thank you guys.
like
They're eating
modern
the dogs,
feminists.
they're eating
Number
the
6?
cats, they're eating the cat.
Yeah,
Okay, we're at 10 then.
Brett's at Pizza Hut too right now.
Cats, they're eating the cat.
You should be happy. Yeah, like modern feminists, I find that most of it's just talking points that they're regurgitating.
Well,
They
yeah.
do not behave like they believe what they're preaching. They are not practicing what they're preaching.
I do
Their
like.
entire lives revolve around men.
I like that Jordan Peterson. I like the way Jordan Peterson describes it. He's been referenced multiple times on this podcast today. But people will say a lot of things, but if you want to know what people believe, watch their actions.
Exactly.
That's the truth. So
Yeah.
you're right with that.
Andrew, you said, now that you're the de facto queen of the castle, when are you instituting your theocracy?
already
I've
happened.
been doing that. Like, that was since yesterday.
The
Where have you been?
gynocracy.
The White Trash Panda said, the rock star and the wannabe. Sub guys, love to the ghost girl as well. I don't know what that's inferring.
I think I'm the wannabe.
Okay. Not that Jon Stewart said, talking about guys being big and manly, Phil was putting on the gun show on stage. No homo.
Cheers, man. Thank
No homo at all. Soapy Enigma said, who is this Phil guy and when are we getting an All That Remains skateboard?
Oh,
Is
that's
that
a
in
good
the
That would
works?
be cool. I'd get one of those.
It's a really good idea.
It's a big maybe.
You know, we've got free weights at the top of the new studio.
Oh, wait, really?
The very top.
Who
Yeah.
brought him up there?
I think Raymond. So shout out Raymond. I'm pretty sure it was him.
Good job,
yeah.
Raymond.
Yeah.
Raymond G. Stanley.
That Stanzatastic said, Gamer Maids ain't a podcast, it's a let's play. Okay, we're splitting hairs here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say if you like video game content, keep watching this show. It comes up pretty frequently, like when
I
video
wouldn't
games.
say like super frequently because neither Brett nor myself are self-avowed gamers, but if it's super relevant, we'll bring it up. The Lore Lodge said, if y'all keep saying Halloween/Christmas are pagan, I'm gonna have to tap the sign. And what does that sign say?
The sign says that Christian holidays did not come from paganism.
Thank you for
Yes.
giving everyone the PSA. Shane H. Wilder said, Kamala on Call Her Daddy. I mean, she does know all about the Gluck Gluck 9000 and nothing
Ew.
about conscription. Yes.
So
she's an expert on that topic.
I asked Mary this: are we supposed to like phone Alex Cooper's father? Is that what call her
Right,
daddy? Or are we
I
supposed to
didn't even
call
realize.
Alex Cooper.
You
daddy?
could see it either way. We need to call Alex Cooper's daddy and tell her
What she's been
daddy
going
what
on
she has
with.
been up to so that he can put a stop to this.
But are we calling her father or are we calling her daddy?
That's what I'm saying.
I really hope there's not a distinction.
Are we using a telephone to inform her father
Yes.
of her actions, or are we calling her the nickname Daddy?
No. I mean, are we calling her
Well, no,
father
she
or are we
calls-
calling her daddy?
She calls her fan base the Daddy Gang, and
Yeah.
she calls herself the Founding Father. So I assume it would be the former, not the latter. Marco said, "Gotta go, great show. Save them pets, yo." Woo! Thank you for being here.
Saving the dogs.
Shane H. Wilder said, "What smells good?" Oh, Mary's cooking. Thank you. Jamesy Boy said, Mary/Brett for Prezi 2040. We would need to wait until 2036 so that I'm eligible. So, yeah.
You could be a good press sec.
Stay tuned. The day of reckoning will come.
A couple of my friends who are actually Democrats said that if they ever became president, they'd still want me to be their press secretary just because they know I'd go to war with the media.
I would love to see Mary hold a press conference as press secretary and just
What,
mog
for
all
PCC?
for the president of the United States, and just start mogging all the journalists.
If I were ever the president, that I would abolish the media.
We would all go to hell. V-Wit said, Mary 2028, I'd vote for you. Also put a girl on. We got to wait a little longer than that, but, who knows what's in the future. Halls and the Kid said, why would abortion be so important to a generation that's actively sterilizing themselves?
They don't think
Well, it's about the sphere of concern has reversed from your immediate family members, your friends, your community, and out into the rest of the world. So it doesn't really matter whether the issue directly affects you.
And for this stuff, you have to people keep trying to logically and critically think about these problems, and you can't apply that metric to people who don't do it themselves. These are all surface level takes that they believe wholeheartedly because they're driven by emotions.
They're very attached to the idea that I'm a good person. They are very, very much attached to the identity that I believe this because I am a good person. They believe this because they are bad. Shane H. Wilder said, damn, Phil hopped in the kitchen to cook too. He was cooking. He's been cooking all this whole episode.
I can imagine. Did you watch any IRL while you were on tour? Mm-hmm. I can imagine there's probably times where you're like, oh, I wish I was there.
I was texting Hannah Claire all the time. All the time.
Having her give your takes.
Not that. I wasn't.
She's just getting her opinions ghostwritten by you the entire time.
But I was definitely like, what's
That's funny.
Texting her. So
JTR said it should be renamed the Call Your Daddy podcast. If only, right? V-Wit said, Phil, stop making sense. You're ruining it all.
I know. Sorry, my dad.
You're ruining the fun. We have a 20 from Demo. Phil, been listening to you for 17 years. Happy you're back at it. 6 will always be my favorite. But has anyone ever pointed out the connection to the end of ESPN's Sports Center?
Sports Center. Yep.
Wait, who copied who?
So there's I think that Ollie kind of nicked that part from Sports Center, but there's a part in 6 there where it's just real quick. It's just da-da-da, da-da-da, and it's kind of like Sports Center. So
Disney, if you're listening to this, mind your business.
Yeah.
DCNC said, put a Brett on. We will on Thursday. In fact, I should mention on Thursday, we are going to be listening to more of your voicemails. So sign up for the Discord if you haven't done so already, and you can send us voicemails there. Jimmy Ray said, regarding abortion, we need to drive the conversation from yes/no to when.
About.
Wait, what?
What? About what? I feel like context is extremely important here.
What stage of pregnancy, I guess? I'm not interested in that conversation. How about no?
Well, that's the problem, is you're never going to get that. So the conversation has to be when. Because you're never going to get a consensus on yes or no.
When do I get what I want?
No, the conversation is at what point is it... At what point is it acceptable? In my opinion, it's... I think we have it's verified that at 12 weeks the fetus can feel pain.
Listen, you spent... When was Roe v. Wade put into law?
1950 something.
50?
No, it was 72.
Was it the 70s?
70s.
I thought it was earlier.
Wasn't it 72?
So you've had 50 years of people growing up in a culture that abortion is a right? Abortion has been normalized. It's going to take another 50 years at least to change that line of thinking. And so people are just so short-sighted and they want change now. And I'm like, listen, they spent a lot of time making this so the culture of America was pro-abortion.
Yeah.
Okay, it was 1973.
I also think it's important to recognize that marijuana is federally illegal and people still smoke it. If you were to, and also, we always make the argument as people who are more on this side of things that prohibitions don't work on guns. If you ban assault weapons, you'll still have shootings. If you ban guns, you'll still have shootings. So it is logically inconsistent to say that banning abortion will stop abortion.
Well, women were always free to be hoes. They just wanted to be freed of the consequences of
I know, hoes. But that's what I'm saying is if you look at the situation, it is logically inconsistent to argue that banning abortion is going to have the outcome of ending abortion. What it's going to do is going to lead to a lot to people having unsafe abortions.
No one ever claimed that it would end abortion.
Yeah, and the argument that you make, taken to the extreme, is like, well, why have any laws at all? People kill people. They're murder's illegal, and et cetera, et cetera.
And so the average person that gets pregnant because of unprotected sex or a one-night stand doesn't think that it's an option. That's the argument for banning it.
From Nate, cuck take, Aidan.
What?
Cuck take. I'm sure
I don't know what the cuck take was.
I'm sure people said slavery wasn't going anywhere as well. Murder is illegal too.
Yes. I think this is this is a matter of what would be considered
he said, I still
individual.
Love you, bro.
Yeah. Oh, I still love you too, Nate. I would say this is more of a matter of individual rights rather than something where you are going after somebody else. Murder is illegal because you're asserting something onto somebody else. Now, if you want to make the argument that abortion is murder, I think that there is an argument to be made there. But I think at the end of the day, what I'm talking about is not necessarily the morals of it, but the logistics. If we know that prohibitions don't work, and we know that prohibitions lead to negative outcomes in many cases, perhaps prohibition is not the idea. Now, there is no way in which allowing murder to be legal can have a positive benefit. But allowing abortions to remain legal up to a certain point can have the positive benefit of not killing a lot of people because of unsafe medical procedures.
I don't have a segue, so we're going to end that conversation. Shane H. Wilder said Trump on PCC, he's got the dance moves.
He does.
I would love that. I would love for Trump to come on PCC. Red Snow said, praise be to Crimson Space King. Also, sup, Phil.
Sup.
Greg Duvier said, where's the cute and cringe of the day? When I said I was taking over, I was taking over.
Plus, Phil is back. He told us great stories.
Also, I knew we weren't going to have enough time, so point proven. Fresh Meat said, I wanted to point out that when you do the Spotify podcast, the audio is so low that when I listen in the car, I blow my ears when Maps comes up with audio directions. Okay.
I think that's a YouTube thing because that happened. People say that to us too, and we have a totally different setup from you guys.
It depends on the medium that you're listening to stuff on, because my work laptop, it's so hard to edit on because everything's really quiet, but everywhere else it's fine. Maybe try turning down the volume of your Maps girl.
That might also be an option.
High Villager 75 said, welcome back, Phil. Your voice sounds like it's recovering nicely from touring. You sounded a little raspy last Friday on Brimcast.
Brimcast?
Did you?
Why was it Brimcast?
Because Tim went to Pennsylvania for the rally. Rally. So Hannah Claire took the reins. I didn't notice that I did, but I'm glad that I sound better today.
I didn't notice too much, but I'm sure there is like vocal fatigue that happens, especially towards the end of a tour.
I mean, it does get tiring, you know, absolutely.
Shane H. Wilder said stuff left over should be an All That Remains cover band.
Come on.
I wanted the title.
We could cancel them.
Instead of Phil That Remains, I was like, the title today should be Phil That Returns.
And I was like, that's stupid. Shut up.
Yeah. No, pretty much. Like.
And then I threw money at you.
Was it real money?
Yeah, that was totally real.
There you go.
Evan said, Phil, question, what is gooning?
Oh, no. Ask Wendigoon. It's been horrible for his brand.
I'm sure it has.
I asked him about that last time.
And the question is, when to goon?
It's not.
Oh, don't do that. No.
To goon or not to goon? That is the question.
It's not something you should do. Go find a hobby.
I will say that
it's a literal waste of time.
That meme of the jacked minion with the shirt that says no gooning does kind of remind me of Phil, like in the gym. Have you seen the meme of the jacked?
I haven't seen this, but I feel like Phil should be offended right now.
It's not. No. He's like he looks cool.
Okay.
He's a minion from Despicable Me, but he's like jacked and he's at the gym.
Vwit
go to the gym.
Said you end up with those qualified dying because the person in the second seat shotgun don't support and help. It's dangerous when you don't have proper backup. What is this referring to?
Wait, what? Can you read that again?
You end up with those qualified dying because the person in the second seat shotgun don't support and help. It's dangerous when you don't have proper backup.
I don't totally understand the comment being made, to be honest.
Put a Girl On said, Gen Z, cry more. Cannibal Corpse uses the tears on eggplant emoji. Okay.
That's funny.
Shane H. Wilder said, Mary shouting out Jeff Cavins for the win. You should reach out. He worked on Bible in a year. Nate said, I've counted 0 FOB. Oh, Fall Out Boy references.
Ooh,
Aiden.
that's my bad. That's my bad. I know.
Dull and Tired said, what do you call a place you cannot leave? You call it paradise. We call it a prison. The serpent have us gnosis from the prison that was paradise. Is this a quote from something?
I don't know.
Okay. Nate, wait, I think we're all caught up on the Superchats.
Well, no, there's one from Vwit that says Aidan cringe, Mary cute.
Answered. You're welcome. Okay, still, you got the cute and cringe of the day.
I thought Kamala was more cringe than me, personally, but you know, I get it. I'll accept it. I'll wear a shirt next time that says cringe.
Oh, they're gonna say you're gonna wear a Kamala shirt next time.
Oh no, that would be funny though.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up the show. First off, Aidan, please let everyone know where they can find you and the Lore Lodge.
Sure, you can find me at the Cringe Lodge. It's the Lore Lodge here on YouTube. We talk about true crime, unsolved mysteries, conspiracy theories, all of that from a very deeply researched perspective. So it's not sensationalist. It is just trying to give you the facts about the story. And yeah, you can also find me at The Weird Bible. I do that show with Wendigoon. We're actually doing one on Thursday about demons because it is Halloween season.
Exciting.
So yeah.
And Phil, let everyone know where they can find you.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and on Twix at ATRHQ. And don't forget, the left lane is for crime.
And Kellen, do you want to be found?
Yeah, you guys can follow me at KellenPDL. Check out GamerMates after this show wraps, right? I think
You always come up with some random thing to shout out because you're so selfless.
Yeah, I don't really... I mean, follow me if you guys want. But check out the other Timcast shows. We got a lot going on here.
Humble. Love that for you. You guys can send me validation on Instagram at Mary Archived, or you can send me hate on X. That is also Mary Archived. And you can follow the show on social media. Our Instagram is Pop Culture Crisis Pod. Our X is popculture_show. And if you'd like to listen to the show rather than watch, you can go find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of the listening platforms. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to the channel. We are growing fast. Turn on notifications so that you can tune in the next time we go live. And I think we have a couple more super chats, don't we?
There were a couple.
3 more.
Okay, Shane H. Wilder said, turn off the map voice and just glance at it every once in a while like a man. Problem solved. Now you can listen to PCC without issues.
Yeah, dude, raw dog the map direction.
Solutions focused. Superpowers said, welcome back, Phil. More anti-communism, please. High Villager 75 said, wait, what was the wager for reaching 10 parties? It was just an empty threat that Brett was never going to come back to the show, but now we've reached 10, so he is going to come back. Put a Girl On said, I'm not a gamer, just a fan of the gamer words. As am I. DCNC said, real men don't use maps, shadows and stars only. Okay, that's a hot take.
That'll do it.
All right.
Get you there.
With all that being said, we will be back tomorrow with another brand new episode. See you then, guys.
See you
Bye.
guys.